today I'm going to be continuing with my notes that I took while listening to 101 essays. And the first one is that you should always value proving something to yourself rather than proving something to the world or someone else. When you do something, it should be you should not be doing it for the sake of proving something to someone, or like for example, if you were to set a goal for yourself that to get over a fear, for example, then you can do it to prove to yourself that you can get over the fear, and that would be effective for your personal emotions. Whereas maybe if you were to say do a certain job to prove to your parents that you could do that job, or to prove to someone prove to the world that you can make X amount of money, or to do or to feel like you need to increase your status, your position, your income to prove to the world, because you are always comparing yourself to the world upon certain metrics when you make money. For example, in this situation, this isn't from Solve for Happy, but in this situation, I can use Mo Gawdat's example, where he talks about how he was never happy because he always, as he made more money and got higher positions, he would compare himself to just new, richer people he knew every single time. Like, for example, he made $1 million, he would look at people who made $10 million, or when he made $10 million, he would look at people who made $100 million, and he was never happy. So if you have a goal, it should never be for the sake of proving something to someone, or for the sake of your image. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean you should run around the street naked because you don't care about your image, but it means that when you shouldn't do things because you feel that insecure in the context of society without doing it. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be unemployed bum, but you should still have your own things going on, but you get the idea. Success without effort, difficulty, or suffering feels unmerited, so we create problems and complexity where there isn't any. So this is against kind of related to the previous one I mentioned yesterday, where the process of investing into something is what will make the reward feel more fulfilling. But also, if you get the reward easily, it makes you feel like it was too easy. This can also be a mistake, but this is a bit different. This is not the same as like winning the lottery. This is more like if you were, I'll use my personal example. The closest thing is that I never so basically in school, this is a low-level example, but it should be easier to understand. In school, I had English essays that I put a lot more time in and got an 80, and I was much happier about the 80 because of how much work I had to put in for it to write that essay. And in math classes, I would get 90s without even, like, I would basically just show up on the tests and figure it out based on the questions, pretty much, for most of them, up to a certain level. I would essentially learn the subject from the questions as I was doing it, and then I would lose marks for not showing my work properly. So the 90s weren't satisfying. Now, I'm not saying I was supposed to be satisfied. The thing is that I was going by the wrong metrics, right? So this situation is like where I wasn't feeling rewarded because it wasn't a goal I set for myself. Now, let's talk about a better example. If I went into the math test saying I wanted to get a 90, and then I got the 90 without studying, and then obviously it would feel anticlimactic, and then I would be like, okay, now in order for me to feel better about myself, I need to earn a 90. So what I would do was, maybe hypothetically, is maybe I would ask them to give me more difficult tests or something, or like take alternative tests or whatever and try to get 90 there, because but like it wouldn't actually do me anything. And so now let's extrapolate this example to something more realistic in the real world. Let's say, for example, you wanted you wanted let's use business. I think business is the most applicable situation for this, or easy to describe example. So let's say you wanted to make okay, I'm just gonna use YouTube videos as an example because it's the easiest. So let's say you wanted to make YouTube videos and your goal was 2,000 subscribers, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's an easily measurable metric, and then you just made some shitty videos to get the hang of it, and then you accidentally reached 2,000 subscribers. So what you do is you don't feel the reward of it because you didn't feel like you went out of your way to learn the things necessary to achieve your goal. So you just increase the number and you say, I would need to start making better edits, better thumbnails, better titles, better research, more advanced, better curated scripts, etc. Because you feel that it would be necessary for you to get there. And then okay. And then the key problem here is that you basically pretend that your goal that you reached doesn't matter because you didn't work hard for it, which it's the reason it's a problem and bad mindset is because you'll never actually feel rewarded, because it's a mindset where every single time you reach a goal, you'll just feel like you didn't try hard enough. And I'll give you an example of why this is ineffective. No, not an example. I'll flip the story for why it doesn't need to be that way. The thing is that usually results are not about suffering and then for a short period of time and seeing the results. It's most valuable results in life are the kind that are based on small things done consistently over a long period of time. And it's not about the simplest example is you can't just lose 50 pounds in 3 months and then say it's done. I'm now healthy. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? It's like most people who lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time will bounce back. So you have to accept that it's going to be done over a long period of time, and you're going to be doing something that you're going to continue doing after that, without actively suffering for the sake of the goal. Just doing the same small things over a long enough time period for results to be seen. You're not doing it for the results. You're doing something that you're going to be doing for a long time, and there will be results that you can eventually measure as you visibly look at it over a long period of time. Okay, that was a horrible explanation. I guess I went circles there because I didn't really plan it out. But yeah, so it's basically most things that are valuable don't come from short-term suffering. It comes from long-term consistency. That's basically the real takeaway after I went in circles. Okay. Another message. This one is actually a direct quote from the book. You owe nothing to your past self. Whew, that one hit me because it's so easy to just think about things you did in the past and just say, "Oh my God," and just hate the way you acted. But it's fine. It's like it is what it is. You just have to live your life. Like at the end of the day, life is exists to be lived and not to be not for you to keep thinking about the past endlessly. Like the past is an observation. It's it's like saying the sun went down at 7 p.m. today. It's just a fact. Don't need to think about what you could have went outside to do, or what you did while it was light out and not you didn't get enough sunlight, or this or that. It's like the sun set at 7 p.m. today. That's an observation. Just it is what it is. Obviously it's easier said than done. You're gonna feel embarrassed about things you did, or you're gonna beat yourself up over the things you did, but that's not. Idea is to catch yourself doing it and go, this accomplishes this is ineffective. It's just not effective. The past only exists for the sake of growth today, or decisions today. It only exists to help you make better decisions today. Okay. Yeah, this has been horrible articulation and thought process, but that's why I'm doing this, to practice. Okay. Only when things don't go according to plan is there room to learn and transform your mind. I don't actually know the exact quote, but this is what I wrote down. A lot of the time we like to focus on our plans, and we hate it when things don't go according to plan. But only when things don't go according to plan does it mean that you actually moved closer to your goal. If your goal is, for example, I'll use business as an example here again. If your goal is to be someone who runs $1 million business, and you say, I'm gonna make this product, sell this many copies on this website, everything's gonna go great, and then you go, you make the product has problems, you have to fix the problems, and then your marketing goes poorly, people aren't buying, you figure out why your marketing doesn't work, you learn marketing skills, you people don't have issues with the product, you learn customer service, you learn you learn pricing models, you learn how to reject the wrong customers and not just accept all of them, because if okay, this one's separate, but it is actually possible for you to have the wrong customers, because they say an example was, if you sell something for $5 to 100 people, they're gonna like flip flop over whether or not they actually want it. It's like, is it really $5? So some of them will ask for refunds, this or that, because they feel like because the people who buy it are stingy. But when you sell to rich people, they'll just buy it, and then like a lot of the time business, like when you listen to these people who run businesses, they'll sell, like they'll talk about how when they sell to rich people, they're shocked by how easily the rich people buy it. Like they don't even have to explain everything that they do and why they should buy from them. They just buy it. And then the poor people, even when it's the same basically the same product but for way less money, so it's better price to value, they're always thinking about whether or not they should actually buy it, or it's like you have to convince them that it's worth it for them, whereas the rich people, they don't, because they're like, this is what I want, I ended up here, just give it to me. Anyways, so you learn this skill, you learn this skill, you learn this skill, because things don't go according to plan. Now you become someone who runs $1 million business. You can't, like, you today, if your goal is to become someone who runs $1 million business, then you don't have all of this experience and knowledge, or else you would already have $1 million business. So the process of it, and as things don't go according to plan, that's what causes the transformation. And so that, you can say the same for doing anything. You can be an author, you write failed books, you make mistakes, you go through publishing issues, you talk to publishers, you try to get it on the charts or whatever, I guess, critics, this, that, and then you see what the readers say, you see what the readers don't like, maybe you make changes, or maybe, I'm just saying random examples. I've never been an author, but like it's only when things don't go according to plan, because the plan was made by the you who aren't yet the person that has the business or has the experience and history that you want it to be, like, because that was your destination. The plan was made by the person who isn't at the destination, so of course to get there it's gonna go off course. Okay, so I'll just read it one more time. Only when things don't go according to plan is there room to learn and transform your mind. Of course, it's not very eloquently phrased because I was the one who wrote it. I don't remember exactly what the original quote was, but it was something similar. I've mentioned this before. The book mentioned it though, so I decided to write it down again. Don't think your way into acting. Act your way into a new way of thinking. Wait, don't think your way into a new way of acting. Act your way into a new way of thinking. Actually, that wasn't the exact quote, but basically, this if you want to change the way you act and think, you start with action, and that influences the mind, not the other way around. Even though we like to think it's the other way around. Being offended by something doesn't make it false. I know I've mentioned this before, but actually the book said it, so I thought it was. I wrote it down anyway. It's kind of funny. Okay, working hard doesn't always make you grow. So I was thinking about it, right? It's like you can work as hard as you want in the wrong way and still not actually make progress. And when you think about it, if you work hard physically, you can grow physically. That means only if you work hard mentally can you grow mentally, and thusly expand what it is you actually do. Like if you, for example, work in the coal mines every day, you work very hard, what you'll improve is your muscles. But if you work hard on your mind every day, then what you'll improve is your thinking ability. And if your goal is money, the latter one is probably going to be more effective. I'm not saying that the first one is wrong, but I'm just saying just because you work hard doesn't mean you will necessarily get the benefits you want if you're not working in the way that trains for the benefits you want. You're never going to get rich no matter how hard you work if you just work hard to get a job done. But if you work hard to learn and gain skill sets, then you'll expand your ability to make money or whatever it is that you want. Money is the easiest example, but most people don't do it for the money. But if you have enough skill sets, then whatever it is you do will likely also make more than sufficient money. It doesn't have to be rich, but it can make enough money for you to do the things you want to do, and then focus on the things. It can make you enough money for you to live life the way you want to live it, assuming it's not particularly extravagant, and then spend your time doing the things you want to do, is what I meant to say. Okay. Okay. Did I read these already yesterday? I don't think so. Okay. Actually, where did I stop yesterday? Anyways. I feel very stupid right now. Okay. We are more Okay. So this one is from. Okay, so these notes are from Solve for Happy, which is this part is talking about how we are much more attuned towards things that are negative, and the reason is because it's all about risk aversion. So, for example, if there is an if there is a apple and a tiger next to each other, we see the tiger because if we see the apple, we die and we don't pass on our genes that see the apple. Evolutionary biology. So we tend when there are positive things and negative things, we see the negative things. When there are positive things and negative things in our past, we remember the negative things because we survive by avoiding death. That's how evolutionary biology works. So we are very geared towards spotting negative things, focusing on negative things, seeing negative things. It is a huge negative bias we have. So it ends up being the case that most of us are essentially negative most of the time because we can't focus on the things that are good. That's just how we are naturally. So if you want a happier life, you have to rewire that. You have to rewire your perception on what counts as negative and what counts as positive. You have to rewire your perception to be able to not filter out the good things and focus on the bad things. Because it's not a matter of life and death anymore. Like the bad things in our life are not actually about life and death. So the focus nowadays, what your goal needs to be outside of basic survival, which is not most of the things you worry about, is going to be to make yourself happier. And to do that, as long as you have your survival needs met, you have to improve your ability, your receptivity to positivity, and reduce your receptivity to negativity, which just means when there's positive things, you absorb it better, and when there's negative things, you absorb it worse than you did before. That's a transformation that you have to make. So, for example, you're much better. So you're much better at remembering. You're much better at responding to. You're much better at seeing, noticing negative things, and negative things trigger stronger emotions and emotions easier. The example they made was if they there was a study in the book that was really fascinating, which basically said if they if they had a word that was meant to be negative and an image, then they would remember the image after seeing, like they would show them the word and then the image, and then they would only need to see the two together for a very short amount of time to be able to remember it later. But something positive and an image had to be seen for like 12 seconds for the brain activity to register the positive thing to the memory, to our long-term memory, or something like that. Basically, when we saw something negative, our brain registered it for long-term memory right away. And when we saw something positive, our brain takes 12 seconds of experiencing that positive thing to decide that it was worth storing for long-term memory. Which is an example. But yeah, so, yeah. Most of us are negative most of the time. We focus on negative things. We think about negative things. We look at negative things. Which is why social media, which is designed to... The algorithm learns on the premise of what gets clicks, what gets views, what gets retention, and it happens to be divisive content because people are receptive to negative things. When they see the negative things, trigger their brain to go, we need to see more of this, we need to know more about this, we need to learn more about this, we need to fight for this, because in the past, that it was a matter of life and death when negative things came up. So you had to know about what your potential threats, you had to fight against your potential threats. It was a matter of life and death. You had to either run away from them, or you had to make sure the other thing disappeared. That's not the case today, but that is how we are still wired. So, it's like if you teach an AI to learn based on, in a video game, based on, how long it survives, then it's going to take actions that eventually survive for longer periods of time. If you teach AI to do things that are filter content for likes, views, clicks, retention, it's going to find things that do those things. And it so happens that because of the way our brains work, things that trigger negative emotions are great at that. Okay. And yeah, okay, so this entire section of the book was talking about how our brains are extremely biased. We filter all of our experiences through very selective focus. So like we are very quick to spot something and then create and then see the context. And this actually happens. And another result of this fact that is observable is that many people end up coming to a conclusion before finding the evidence. So, for example, a lot of the time, maybe when they're buying something, at first they have the desire to buy it, and then they find reasons to buy it, or they decide not to buy it and they find reasons not to buy it. So that's the simplest example, right? You can just imagine it. It's based on your desire to buy or not, or okay. So obviously there's two parts of you. One part that buys and one part that doesn't want to buy. So the fact that you have to discuss with yourself means that there's two parts that are disagreeing on this. So there's going to be one part that wins. It starts off winning, and then you convince yourself by looking for the things that support the winning position. And so that's why you have people who will make a decision very quickly and then start to argue their position after their knee-jerk response, because they feel like they have to defend something that they originally thought, because that original thought they think is the product of their free will and identity. So now they have to defend it. So for example, you'll see this a lot where someone will say something and then someone will you'll see their physiological reactions where they're either shocked, or they feel like they have to say something, or they're offended, or not even offended. Maybe they just feel like they have to say something, not even because they feel like it targets them. Like my first example is more like social media, but even outside of social media, like for example, like if you were to have like a class environment where the students were talking to each other and one student was talking about what they think about the topic or whatever, you'll be able to see, like, at certain moments another student might, even if they don't shout out, you can see them move, like you can see their body language change, and they're processing because they're ready to say something. They want to say something. They have an opinion on it already. And then they're working on what to say, working on what it is they should say. But the original reaction was very reactive. That means that they didn't develop the opinion in response. They instantly had the opinion, and then they developed the support for the opinion. So you can see that. And that kind of response is like our need to defend anything we think, because we feel like that what we thought is our identity or a product of our free will. But yeah, so the note I wrote from this for this is just people often make decisions and then find evidence. Very interesting. Yeah, but yeah, no, our filters are very strong. You have to de-identify with your perceptions. And just understand that your perception is not always objective fact. It's based on your experiences and what you expect to be true. So when you say things with like quickly or reactively, it is because that is what your filters are. And only when you actually just say, listen, brain, what are the actual facts, and nothing but the facts, and that we know for absolutely has nothing to do with subjectivity, and then to make your opinion, that's when you have something that's not actually based on your free will and not just your rat-like response to hormones, dopamine stimulation, sugar, this, that, whatever. It's like when you just knee-jerk reaction that's basically you just being an animal that we're experimenting, a rat in a lab. And then when you build up the arguments after, that's basically you trying to act like you have free will to convince yourself that you're making your decisions out of your free will. Essentially, right? It's like, if you think about it. But yeah, so that's why that's bad. It's also you never learn anything if you hold on to every thought as if it's your identity. Okay. And one last sentence on the same topic. Your brain is guilty until proven innocent. It is the opposite of crime, because your brain is always filtering things through its own filters based on your life experiences, based on its conditioning, that not just teachings, but conditioning, because of the hormone stimulations, what information just seeps in, like even if you're not aware of it, like pop culture maybe, what kind of content you listen to, what your teachers tell you, what your parents told you, it conditions your brain genuinely, biologically. So you have to understand that your brain is not objective, which means you have to understand. Again, what was the sentence again? You have to say that your brain is guilty until proven innocent, in terms of saying the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It is going to fail at, if you hold truth to this standard, your brain is very guilty until proven innocent, because it is not going to provide the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth when you ask it for its observations, because of how powerful your filters are. All right, that's going to be it.